Welcome back to Double L Cattle Farming and Hatchery. Today's video is about incubation procedures and tips and how to help you hatch out more chicks. Plus, we're going to go over this homemade incubator that we built, and we call it the I Hatch Better Than a Hen 4000. If that sounds interesting to y'all stick around. First thing we'll talk about is temperature. More than likely, if you're having trouble with your hatch, it's due to temperature. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, I've got the temperature set just right, and I watch it constantly. The problem is this. You can get 10 different temperature devices, and you're going to get 10 different readings. And therein lies your problem. So no matter how hard you try to get it the right temperature setting, you may have it set at a certain temperature that you think it's that, but in reality, it's not. We've used tons of different things, and I mean, will range probably 10 degrees difference between different temperature devices. So what we try to do is take an average of all that and get the ballpark. And this doesn't matter if you build it your own incubator or if you buy one. It's going to be the same thing. You need to have one that you can check the temperature in and get you close to the ballpark of the right temperature. It's not hard to hatch chicks if you've got the right temperature. It's extremely hard if you don't have the right temperature. Once you get in the ballpark of the right temperature and you start hatching some chicks, then that will tell you exactly which way you need to go with your temperature. Typically, your chicks should start pipping, busting through the egg a little bit, just barely one little crack. You start hearing some chirping, and they should start pipping the day before, on the 20th day. And then most of them should hatch on the 21st day. And then you'll have some stragglers sometimes on the 22nd day. And so every now and then you'll have one in the 23rd day. The majority of the hatch should be on the 21st day. If you're having them pip on the 19th day and they're hatching out on the 20th day instead of the 21st day, then that means you're a little warm and they're hatching out a little too early. So no matter what your temperature device is telling you, it's too warm, but you've not done like nature and duplicated that 21st day. I would recommend, if that's the case, doing a half a degree cooler. On the other side of that, if they're pipping on the 21st day and most of your hatches on the 22nd day, then it's a little too cool. So you want to heat it up maybe a half a degree. And there, just let your chicks, once you get it close, let your hatch tell you what the correct temperature is, because they know. They're going to hatch according to that temperature. If that temperature is perfect, they're going to do the pipping on the 20th day and hatch out on the 21st if the temperature's perfect. So if that's not the case, you know your temperature's a little off. The temperature's going to be a little different versus still air, which doesn't have a fan in it, versus a forced air, which is an incubator with a fan. It's about 2 degrees different. If you have a forced air or fan incubator, you want to use 99 to 99.5 degrees. And if it's a still air incubator, you want to use 101 to 101.5 degrees in a still air incubator. Ventilation is also something that's important. You want to make sure that it isn't airtight, your incubator, that there is vents for fresh air to get into the eggs. Humidity. We live here in the South. We have tons of humidity, so humidity is not a big issue for us. About the only time we really need some extra humidity is maybe right when they start to hatch. I would recommend as far as humidity, because it's going to vary so much with where you live, what time of the year it is. There's no set procedure as far as what to do. I mean, I would say you want about 45 to 50% humidity in your incubator, but there again, you're going to get so many different readings. The best thing you can do to monitor humidity and see if you're where you need to be on it is just candle the eggs once or twice a week and look for the air gap in those eggs, and that'll tell you according to where it's at. There's tons of things on the internet that you can look at for the proper air gap, but as it gets closer to hatch, you'll know that air gap will need to be at a certain level where they're not drowning, but yet they've got plenty of water in there as well. So as far as turning, all I do is 3 or 4 times a day, I just open the lid and take my hand in very gently, just very gently roll the eggs around. I'm talking about, even if I don't roll them completely around, I'm not concerned with that. I just want to move them where they're not laying there still. That's the main thing. If I only move them halfway or quarter turn, that's still plenty. You just don't want to be rough with them, because too much jarring is what you really don't want. But just a little bit of turning, and my personal feeling is more turning more times a day with less actual full turning going on, and you're not leaving the lid open as long, letting it cool off. That's why I just choose to roll them around just a little bit, just very, very gently. I want to emphasize that. And like I said, not even concerned with if they don't get turned all the way around, as long as you're moving every egg a little bit. Whether or not you're using an automatic turner or just roll them around or physically turn them all the way over with your hand, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You want to stop turning your eggs on the 18th day. All right, here's some more tips that'll get you a better hatch as well. First of all, you want to start with fresh eggs. Try your best to only incubate eggs that's no older than 10 days old. Another thing you want to do is run your incubator at least 2 days prior to putting your eggs in. Make sure it's running correctly and holding its temperature, and you don't have anything going wrong with it. It looks to be operating normal. When you first put your eggs in there, your temperature is going to drop on your incubator. That's another big reason for having your incubator set up for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days prior. Well, you're confident in that temperature prior to putting those eggs in, because when you put the eggs in, the temperature is going to drop, and you don't need to adjust the temperature. You need that temperature just left where you've seen it run for 2 or 3 days and you're confident in it. So when you put those eggs in, you just let it keep running. You don't adjust it, even though the temperature is going to drop when you first put the eggs in. If the power goes out, that's another thing that happens. It's going to happen if you incubate very many eggs. You're going to have a power outage while you're incubating. One time during the early spring, we had the power go out 3 different times during the incubation process, and one time I raised the lid and the eggs were ice cold. They were cold, and I thought none of them's going to hatch. But I thought, well, I'm just going to continue and see what it does. And they did hatch out about a day late, but they hatched just about normal hatches that we usually got. So, and that was after the power had went out 3 different times. So just because the power goes out, as long as it ain't more than a few hours, I think you're fine. As your chicks start to hatch, you need to know that baby chicks can live up to 3 days without food or water. When they're hatched in these hatcheries and they're putting them mail to go to you, they just take them fresh out of the eggs and put them in a box and ship them out to people. So they don't have any food or any water. So they can live for up to 3 days without food or water. So you don't have to be in a hurry to get them out of your incubator. And that's something to keep telling yourself, because it's going to be hard to resist. You're going to hear them in there and you're going to want to get them out. But the others that's trying to hatch need that humidity. Once the hatch starts and those chicks start coming out of the egg, the humidity in your incubator, you're monitoring it, you'll see it'll just go up sky high. And that's from those chicks coming out of the egg. The chicks are wet, and that's just putting more humidity in the air, which is helping the others trying to hatch. Humidity helps the hatch. You need to resist trying to open the lid up as much as you can. If you do, for some reason, see the need to get one out, or one's got a half a shell kind of over the top of it, that will happen occasionally. You need to get that off. Just try to leave the lid off as little as possible, and as quickly as you can, get the lid shut back. And if you can see you're going to have to be in there for a second, another tip you can do is get you a couple paper towels and get them with really hot water, and don't wring them out. As you put that lid in, stick those paper towels in there as well. Really boost the humidity back up. You've let out by having to open it up. Another thing that we've seen through the years is if you have a little chick that you took out of the incubator and you've got it in the brooder, and maybe it's got trapped in the water. We've had that happen before. We put rocks in the water when they're really, really little to keep them from getting over in there, but sometimes they still do, even with the rocks in there. Or one gets hung in a feeder, whatever, sit there for a long time, they get really weak, and you think, man, this thing's gonna die. They can't stand up, they're just laying down there. We put them back in the incubator, and a few hours later, they're good as new. I mean, I can't explain it. I'm not gonna tell you it'll work every time for you, but it's worked several times for us where a little sick chick that you think's on death's door that we put back in the incubator, and a few hours later it was good as new. So it's something to at least try. It might work for you. Chickens we have are Jubilee Orpington Bantams. They're really rare and extremely hard to hatch, and that's another reason why we decided to build our own incubator. I mean, incubators, a good one's very, very expensive, so we decided just to build our own. This is what I come up with. I just used an old igloo cooler. It's got a drain on the other side, and we took the drain plug out. That's what we use for ventilation. Of course, it's well insulated. That's one thing when you're picking out something to make an incubator out of, you want it very insulated. That controller right there is a thermostat controlled power supply. The little white cord coming off of it is the temperature sensor. It's what reads the temperature. That has a capability of putting an alarm on there, as well as a variance. It's got a high and a low alarm. As you'll see when I open this lid to show you the inside, the alarm's going to go off because it's going to drop in temperature. So like if I had this open, I was rolling my eggs to turn them. As you can see, it's dropping, and then the alarm will come on here in just a second. See that? That's telling me that you can just cut it off by pressing the button. But this is the heat source. I put a floor in this with wire because the little chicks, they do better when they've got, this just seems like on that wire, it helps them to hold their legs up under and teach them how to walk at a faster rate. So this is a temperature and humidity device that I got. It just kind of double checks, make sure there is at least some humidity in there. Got this off eBay. I'll put a picture of exactly what we got right here, as well as the temperature controller. But I put just one of these in here at the beginning, and it would get to the temp, but it was so slow about it. So I had an old one out of an old incubator. It's the same thing. This one didn't have a fan like this one does. Just put both of them together. They don't get hot. I mean, you could touch that. It's just not hot. It's warm, but it's not hot. So it's not in danger of overheating. And right here's the sensor that goes to the thermostat controller right here. I just lay it in there. It's just a thing I got to help hold the lid open right there is all that is. This one's only got one because it didn't have a fan. But this one's got two. One goes to a fan. I had to run to a power supply right over there, and that's what runs the fan. It's got two different power sources, one for the heater and then one for the fan. When the hatch is over, you just take this out. This floor just pulls up out of there. Cleaning this is just a breeze. There's just nothing to it. You cut everything out of it. This right here comes off. I just put some Clorox and water and just cleaned out, let it air out, and then you put it back in, you're ready to go again. Well, I hope this has helped somebody today. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.
How fresh is the steak? Will it be any fresher or will we still be gracing?